Michael, it's a great pleasure to have you on the Latter End podcast. I'm a big fan of yours. I've watched so many of your YouTube videos.
Oh, wow.
I've sat in my living room and have watched just a myriad of your YouTube videos on your channel.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I like your advice when it comes to speaking and how to be an excellent speaker and practical tools and tips that you provide. I just think that you have great advice and you're clearly a very competent speaker yourself. How was it growing a YouTube channel, Michael? I'm kind of in like early stage YouTube. It's not easy starting and scaling a YouTube channel. How was that journey? I know you're at 14,500+ subscribers with thousands of views.
Well, mine is probably one of the smaller channels, especially for the time that I've been out there. I really haven't done anywhere near the things that I should be doing and that I should have done. I probably should have been in at least like 50,000 or 100,000 or more, right? But basically, my strategy, because I started this years ago, over 13 years ago, more than that, right? It's way back. I think I have videos from back at 2009. So
wow.
It's been a while. And my goal was just to flood the market with great content and eventually finding the keywords or key phrases that people might be looking for my content, and then just keep putting out good content as often as possible.
That's the foundation from which any YouTube channel can even begin to grow, is to just put out quality content. And I've seen YouTubers get too caught up and I'm new, so what do I know? But I've had people tell me, don't get too caught up in the production and the camera and this and that. Obviously you want the best quality you can, but it's about the content. It's about the script. It's about the value you add.
Absolutely.
So that's the meat and potatoes. All the other stuff is great add-ons if you're able to have the budget to up the game on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're tapping into the challenges, the problems, the questions, the desires that people have, and you're putting that out there in a way that people can find it, and you're doing it, and you're honest about it, you're passionate about it, and you do it consistently, there's a lot of other stuff and tools that's available now, so it'll make it even better. But if that's your core, then you can grow your channel.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The primary focus needs to be on who's my audience, who's my target audience, have I niched down enough, and is my content speaking to them in a way that adds value? That's probably the vast majority of the battle on YouTube, but it takes time. It's slow growth on YouTube. Michael, I would love to just kind of get into the interview by you just telling us a bit about yourself and how you commenced your journey in the world of speech. I know that you're in the realm of speech in which you teach people how to be excellent speakers. So I would love for you to give us a background about yourself so we can get to know you a bit and how you got started there.
I'll try to be as brief and concise as possible while giving you the information that you need.
Yeah.
And so I started in this because of a struggle. I struggled with stuttering from the time I was, second grade maybe, all the way up through adulthood. And if that's a real struggle, and if people are not aware of what that looks like, it's almost like being trapped in your own mind, because you got stuff that you want to say and you physically can't say it. It just won't come out when you want it to. So it's very, very challenging. It can be depressing for some people. So it was a real struggle. And probably by the time I got into my mid-20s, I stumbled upon a guy named Brian Tracy, and I started to listen to him. And a couple of key principles I learned that helped me, I would say, transform my speech and my whole life. One was that speaking is a habit. Even stuttering is a disfluent form of speaking. So even though there's something neurological going on in people who stutter, generally speaking, but still the act of speaking is a habit, as well as the thoughts and emotions that go along with that. What I learned from Brian Tracy is that those habits or patterns can be replaced with new ones. So based upon that premise and my belief that, oh, hey, I'm not stuck with this for the rest of my life. And even if you don't stutter, whatever your challenge might be, this is true. Neurologically, I can create new neural pathways that represent a new way of speaking and thinking. So then the only question is, how do I do that? Well, one thing I stumbled upon was modeling, just copying off of someone else. And modeling is simply what we call observational learning. And it's the way every human being learns stuff. We learn initially by modeling someone else. So I just modeled him, and I found another model I modeled. So I pretended to speak, kind of be that person. And over the years, it helped me transform my speech and my speaking identity and my confidence and so forth. So years go by. I purposely put myself in jobs that required me to speak and lead. So ministry, professorship, all that kind of stuff, workshop leader, which just helped me expose myself to speaking. Some years later, I decided I wanted to start my own business where I could work from anywhere. So I did some research. I looked outside and I looked inside and I said, what do I really want to do? I want to help people who struggle with their speech, stuttering. So I said, and I want to be able to do it from anywhere. So I work virtually, and I don't only work with people with stutter. I work with anyone now who in any way wants to improve their speech, their confidence, interviewing skills, presentation skills, all those things. And so that's how I got into it, because of a challenge that I had. And I saw it as an opportunity for me to help other people, not just overcome something, but actually become excellent, if not superior, communicators.
To not only overcome something that many people with a speech impediment feel is seemingly insurmountable, Michael. They're practicing all these techniques, or maybe they're not, but they're stuck with this speech impediment. And as you said, it really can be debilitating. It can be just incapacitating from just a psychological standpoint. How impactful was it, Michael, when you had an issue with stuttering? What was that experience like? And I know you talked about it a little bit, but can you just tell us a little bit more about how that impacted you as a person?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, growing up, I started reading a lot of personal development books, because I knew that when I read them, I learned stuff about my own mind and brain and subconscious, and it helped boost my confidence. And I figured out that when I felt more confident, I tended to speak better. So I just tried to do stuff that would boost my confidence. I was in martial arts for many, many years, and I would read lots of books and then listen to audio. And all this stuff boosted my confidence. But yet and still, there were many situations, talking to girls, speaking up in class. The major that I chose for college wasn't the one I wanted to, because I figured, well, I'm going to have to speak up more and do presentations, so let me do this instead. So when you're struggling with either a speech impediment or even speech anxiety, it controls your choices in life. It controls your career choices, your educational choices. It controls your relationships, how much you speak out, the quality of your relationships. And it's this constant inner battle going on between, I want to speak up, I want to talk to this person, I want to do this, but I can't. And so sometimes you feel ashamed, or you feel doubtful, your confidence level can be low. You literally feel trapped. I describe it like a big, wet, heavy blanket that you walk around with. Literally,
Just
that's
weighing
how
over
it felt.
you.
A
Yeah.
weight. Yeah.
It's just weighing over you. Yeah. It can be a debilitating psychological issue predominantly. And of course, there's some neurological components that are probably perpetuating that mess. And I say that mess innocuously. It is, I'm not trivializing it. It is nor am I making light of it. It is not a fun situation. So how long did you suffer that for, Michael, where you had a stutter that was holding you back?
So that's a tricky question. And here's why. I would say up until my late 20s or early 30s. So it's during my mid 20s to early 30s that I started to make that transformation. And it probably was in my early 30s, I think, maybe even a little later than that. I was in seminary, and I remember so I was doing a lot of speaking, and something clicked. And it was like that big, wet, heavy black blanket was lifted off of me. And I felt like, wow. I mean, I literally felt like, wow, now I can do anything I want. I mean, I literally felt free. But that wasn't the end of the stuttering. There was times where I would still get stuck or still have trouble. And even now, if I speak in Spanish, there are times where I want to say something, but it just won't come out. But now I know what to do about it, right? And I still have some disfluencies in English. And here's what I tell everybody. Everyone has disfluencies, even if you've never stuttered.
Yep.
And a lot of people are very disfluent, even though they don't stutter.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of you eliminating it, although many people do. It's just gone. But for other people, it's debris. And a lot of it has to do with your identity. So my identity now is not one of a stutterer. My identity is one of being an excellent speaker. So even if I do have a disfluency, it doesn't affect me. It's just like anyone else who stumbles over their words and they just keep going. It just doesn't affect them, right? So the identity is a huge driving factor, and that's been evolving over the years, but that's what really made the difference. And then your speech kind of follows your identity and your mindset.
As you get more confident and, obtaining or getting that confidence can come from a variety of things.
Yep.
You feel more confident now, and now there's more of an absence of those speech disfluencies. So that's a really great, insightful point. What are some of the things that you've noticed that lead to or perpetuate speech impediments? The primary things that you've noticed, and I know it's nuanced, right? It's different for every individual. There's been some science behind what, I'm sure you know more about this than I do, about what really causes it. Is it partially genetic? There's a neurological conversation, a psychological. It's multifaceted, but to just sort of, and I know you know much more about it than I probably ever will. But what are some of the common things that you think lead to or perpetuate it?
So the science is still out there. One of the guys that I trained, who's now working with me as a speech coach, he's actually doing his master's in neuroscience, and he was inspired by going through Pro 90D. His name is Farouk, and he used to be a severe stutterer. Now he's doing presentations, and he's in Germany doing his master's and stuff. And what we find is that for some people, it's genetic. We don't know, but for some people, it's genetic. But just because something is genetic doesn't mean it has to present itself, right? There are people that have the genes for all kinds of stuff that never presents itself. So for some, it can be genetic. And it can present itself, obviously, neurologically. Sometimes there's too much of or a combination of neurotransmitters that can cause a disconnect or a delay in speech, or sometimes there's not enough of some neurotransmitters that can cause that delay. And once you start to experience disfluencies, especially at an early age, and if it continues, because many children just grow out of it, right? It's just natural.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't, then it gets wired into your personality, your psyche, right? Your beliefs. So now it's not just neurological, which everything is neurological, but it's neurological and it's psychological. So how you're feeling, the situation, your memories, all of those things can impact how you speak. So sometimes it's not even what you're saying. So you can even not be speaking, but anticipate having problems and start to feel. And then when you open your mouth, so you haven't even spoken yet, but you're thinking about it. So that's not even physical, that's psychological, right? So that gets baked in. Then it's more challenging to overcome that. So absolutely, it can be genetic, definitely neurological, because everything we do is neurological, right? And then absolutely psychological, mental, all of those things play. And as you become an adult, then you see more of the personality, identity, psychological side impacting how a person speaks and their levels of disfluency.
And I think just because, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but just because something is genetically predisposed to occur, that doesn't mean that you can't overcome it, right, Michael?
That's right. The thing that, if we rewind a bit, my initial belief some 30 years ago was that I could overwrite this, that I could create. And back then, I didn't really know anything about neural connections. I thought of it more like a subconscious mind, like a recording, like a set of beliefs that I could overwrite and create new ones. Now, getting more into the neuroscience, I know that even if there's something wrong in the areas of our brain that controls speech, like there's something lacking, our brains are so powerful, it's called neuroplasticity, that our brains can go in and reconstitute or recruit other areas of our brain to take over those areas that are damaged or weak, right? So we know we can create new neural pathways. This is a law that we can create new neural pathways that then, if you continue to use and strengthen those pathways, you can then weaken the old pathways.
Yeah.
They're still there, but they're weaker now, right? And the new neural pathways can represent smoother speech or better confidence or whatever.
It's a very good point, Michael. You're absolutely right. And that goes, the neural pathways and the creation of new neural pathways can go for many. It can be extrapolated out. I know people in pain, there's a psychological component of pain. There's a brain response to pain. That's a good point, and it can be, extrapolated across the board. Michael, I know you mentioned your business, pro90day.com. I want to get to that. I got one more speech-related question, and then I want to dedicate the rest of the show to talking about that. I think you're doing something fantastic, and I want to be sure to cover that. Speech is such a powerful component to our day-to-day lives, right? It's the way in which we communicate. When you are a proficient speaker and you're able to command a room and be a great public speaker, be a great presenter, it has such a profound impact on your life. And not even just in these nuanced scenarios, Michael, in which you're in a job interview setting, going for the job of your dreams, or you're an entrepreneur giving a presentation. Of course, it's advantageous in those scenarios, and perhaps it's pronounced in those scenarios. But even in your everyday life, calling your doctor's office or talking to your dad or talking to a buddy of yours, it's so advantageous. How has being an excellent speaker helped your quality of life?
I'm going to give you 2 to 3 specific examples. Number one, you physically, physiologically, and psychologically feel freer. So imagine that. Now you don't have this burden of, can I say this? Am I going to mess up? Right. So that speech anxiety just lessens and dissipates. So you feel better. You're healthier because you don't have that constant stress, right? So you are healthier, you become healthier, and you feel healthier and freer mentally. That's number one. Number 2, better relationships, better connections, friends and family. Now you're able to open up, communicate, say the things that you want to say to family and friends, as well as to new people that you meet or want to meet. So now you have better relationships, personal relationships, business relationships, better relationships. Then I think a third thing, which is very important, is it allows you to fulfill and walk in your calling. How can you now contribute back to the world? Because a lot of people aren't doing what they feel called to do because of the limitation of their speech. Once you remove that limitation, now you can really begin to dream and say, ooh, I want to start this. I want to do this. I want to help people in this way. Now you can do it. So it literally opens you up to fulfill your calling and purpose in life when you remove that speech limitation, which again, doesn't mean that you're a perfect speaker, but it just means that now, here's the way I like to say it. Pro90D helps you transform your speech from a liability to one of your greatest assets.
Yeah.
So now it's an asset that you can use to impact the lives of other people. So those are the 3 ways. To
your point, to expand upon it, it's absolutely an asset. And at that, it is one of the most powerful assets that you can have, because speech is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's the way we communicate with one another. You can't get around it. We aren't telepathic. You can't send somebody a thought. Well, I guess, that's a nuanced conversation. But generally speaking, in grounded in a baseline reality on this. That's how we communicate our ideas. So yeah, you're absolutely, Michael. It's a massive asset. So tell us a bit about your business. I personally know a bit about it. I've looked at your website. As I said, I've watched your videos. Just give us a brief encapsulation as to what you offer. And I believe it's a fully remote business, if I'm not mistaken. I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. So if you remember, I said I wanted to design a business where I could work from anywhere, and that's really helped a lot, right?
Yep.
It's actually cheaper for the client. It's cheaper for me. It's more flexible. All of my clients are from someplace else. Very rarely have I had a client that lives in my neighborhood. Often not even in my city, not even in my state. Most of my clients have been from different parts of the world or country. So it's remote. I named it Pro 90D after P90X because I just liked the way they had that set up. And I was okay, I like that. So Pro stands for proactive speaking, which means you're not just sitting back kind of responding, or I like to use the word reacting to stuff, but you're actually being proactive. So we have a set of proactive speaking skills like articulating and enunciating and inflecting and body language. So you get more engaged in your speech. It's proactive. And then 90D, so Pro 90D, stands for 90 days. Based on my research and experience, you can make significant transformations about 90 days, right? You start to see it sooner, but about 90 days. So that's 90D is for 90 days. And what do? We offer three core products or services, if you will. One is private coaching. So you can work with myself or with my coach, Farouk. And this is probably the fastest, best way because you get more accountability. We can see things you can't see. We can repeat things over and over that you need to hear. We can ask you questions. And so it's a more customized, personalized approach. Then we have our self-study, which we've now combined with something called our Virtual Speech Masters Club. And this is a community. We meet basically every Saturday for about 90 minutes. So think of it like a specialized Toastmasters. So we have different speaking scenarios, interviewing presentations on the spot. It's all virtual. And you get access to our full course and our WhatsApp community. So that's a second product. And then a third product that I'm getting ready to roll out in just a little bit is an AI speech coach. So it will have my knowledge base, Pro 90D, and it'll be able to interact and help you with interviewing skills, give you feedback on presentations and all that stuff.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's smart. You're integrating AI. It feels like if you have a business in which you're not like introducing AI on any level, it just feels like you're kind of behind the eight ball nowadays. I mean, you have a great business. I'm just generally speaking. Like AI is such a proliferation of it, and it just makes things easier.
It does. It does. So I think it'll be a great addition. Right now, it just can't replace me yet.
No, yeah.
I'm not saying that it won't one day, but right now it can't, but it can. It's very good. It can do a lot. It can advise people and coach people to a degree. So it's just a great addition. And even the AI said, I can't replace you.
Yeah, the AI's got no chance right now. The AI's not going to replace you, Michael.
That's because of the experiences that I've had. It doesn't have, it can have my knowledge, but it can't have, and it can simulate my experiences, but it can't have
it just won't be the same. Yeah. Obviously, we see AI advancing at an exponential rate, and God knows what AI will present itself in the future. But, we even see it like, I don't want to digress. I have another question for you, Michael, but in like blue collar work, I got friends in corporate. I got friends who do like construction. They're like, I'm good. I'm not sitting at a desk. I'm like, robotics is coming, my friend.
We were just talking about that. Yep, it's coming. Truck driving. Not to digress, taking over truck driving, taking over a lot of blue. So yeah, it's there.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Have you seen someone join your program who had a severe stuttering issue and come out of it just completely healed from it, or virtually 95+% better? As we've noted earlier, it can be extremely tough to deal with.
Yeah, we've seen the whole range, right? We've seen people that come out, and obviously the quality of their life is better. They're now able to say the things they want to say, get the jobs. And they still struggle from time to time, like probably most of us do. It doesn't impact them in the same way that it used to. Their identity is different. So life is very, very different. And they're okay with having an occasional disfluency, which is probably about the norm. But then we've seen people just go through and come out and it's gone. It's just gone, right? I don't encourage people to expect just eliminate it, it's gone, just because of how our brains are wired. But that can happen because sometimes it's something that's for them, it's identity based, it's more psychological. And once we take care of that, it's gone, right? For other people, it's more wired in. And so once we take care of changing their speaking style and the mindset and the identity issue, their speech, 1,000% better and they're speaking fluently. But will they have disfluencies? Of course they will, because everyone does. They just might be aware of it a little bit more, but it's not impacting. So we get the whole range. So the answer to your question, yes, we see people, boom, it's gone. For other people, their whole life is different. Their identity is different. Their speech is different, right? And anyone that tells you, oh, we can eliminate this, they're probably not being completely honest, because it's not going to happen for everyone. It can happen, but if they tell you that, well, this program is going to do that, they're probably not being completely honest.
Yeah. What's a couple pieces of advice that you would give to someone? And I know that they can join your program, and I would suggest that they do so if they're suffering a speech impediment, because they'll learn a whole lot more. But just generally speaking, what's a couple pieces of advice that you'd give someone to help them overcome stuttering or a speech impediment problem?
Yeah. So I'm going to expand that a little bit and say, so speech impediment, any kind of struggle in that way, could stuttering or whatever, but also people who just have speech anxiety or speak fast. And you'll see why I'm mentioning fast speech. So one piece of advice that I would give that we found that helps virtually all of our clients is learning how to slow their speech down and take their time and become more relaxed, right? So just learning to slow everything down. Even if you don't speak super fast, you may feel rushed or anxious. That impacts your speech. So the number one thing is learning how to slow everything down, slow your speech down, learn how to take your time. A second one, which is very much related to that, is breathing. Just learning how to breathe more. Sometimes when people struggle with their speech, they'll find that they're not breathing much, right? So learning how to breathe more, pause a little bit, take that breath, slow everything down. That's one of the major ones. Another big one is self-talk. If you don't learn how to constructively, I'll use the word constructively, but positively also, constructively talk to yourself, encourage yourself, then you'll simply continue to go through life thinking and acting the way that you always do. You have to become aware of what you're thinking throughout the day and change that. And you have to be aware of what you're thinking during a conversation while you're speaking, because that's where you have to do something different. Like even just reminding yourself to breathe or slow down. You have to be able to do that while you're speaking until it becomes habit. So self-talk, slowing down and breathing, those would be like the three major things. There's a lot more that are important, but those would be the three major.
What have been some of the challenges of being an entrepreneur? Like, what are some things that maybe people don't realize who aren't entrepreneurs yet, who are maybe soon to be aspiring entrepreneurs, that have been particularly cumbersome or challenging?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, if you're starting something and if it's kind of a new idea, or even if it's not a new idea, and you're putting it out there and you're not getting the traction that you want, what people will do is they'll start to doubt, and then they'll start jumping around doing lots of different things. So they never get the traction. And defining your market, like you said earlier, who's my target audience? Sometimes you'll put stuff out there to a proposed target audience, and it turns out to be a completely different audience that you didn't anticipate. So you got to go with that, right? So finding your people, your target audience who likes you personally, they like what you say, they have the challenges that you're addressing, and then iterating. get stuff out there, get their feedback, find out what they want, what they need, try to use their words when you put it out there, and then keep doing that even though you don't see a lot of traction. So it's got to be something you feel called to do and that you're passionate about, and obviously something that you can do. Because if not, if you are missing any of those elements, you're going to quit. So it's got to be something you're passionate about, you have the ability to do, and there's a need for, right?
Yep.
And find your audience, your niche. So let's say that's one category. 2, find your platforms. I like YouTube, I like video. So you can't be all over the place trying to do everything. Pick a couple, focus on those. And then there's a motto I like to call Vic and Rick. Vic means value, impact, clarity. Rick simply means relevance. Focus on that. Am I giving them value? Is this relevant to them? Am I making an impact? Am I holding their attention while I'm speaking? Am I impacting them? And is what I'm saying clear, both in the way that I'm speaking and in the structure? Keep that in mind. So keep those things in mind. And also use technology, leverage technology. So now AI, create systems for yourself to do stuff, to make things easy. Don't overwhelm yourself, just make it. So that's why I personally don't do a lot of editing. Now I use software, just throw it in there, boom, boom, boom. Because if it's too hard for me to do, I'm probably not going to do it. Just make it easy.
How has social media and social media marketing helped grow your business? I can imagine you having a remote business that helped you grow a lot. How has that helped your business grow?
So there's 3 things that have helped my business grow. I started with YouTube, just putting out great videos. I also started with Google Ads and learning how to create landing pages, do Google Ads, not spend only a certain amount of money to attract people to get their email addresses, and then continue to converse with them. Critically important to have your own email database, right? So, and there's lots of different ways to do that now, but like Google Ads is just one of them. YouTube, obviously, right? But then here's another one. There's a company called Udemy, Udemy.
Yeah, it has courses and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So way back, right around when they were first getting started, I got on board. I have like 68,000 students now.
Wow.
And many of my coaching clients have come from Udemy. Why? Because they were being educated by me and they were applying stuff that worked. So then they would move on to do coaching or whatever. So creating content in a structure like that, that does the marketing for you essentially, has helped. So that's one way. It's a lot more competitive now, but you can still do it. So course platform that I'm not doing all the marketing for. So Udemy, YouTube, and then some way that you can control based on your ad spend, Facebook or whatever it is, where I can increase and I can go in, I can analyze and say, yeah, I want to spend this much, or I don't want to spend this much, but I want to drive traffic so that I can get their email addresses so I can not bother them, but communicate with them.
3 great ways, Michael, or just a few great ways, Michael. Thank you so much. Lastly, just so people know, it's called pro90day.com.
Yeah, we call it the Pro90D Smooth Speech System.
Right.
And the website is simply pro90d, pro90d.com. So if you go there, you can get to basically everything else.
I will link it in the description below if it's okay with you. That way, if someone comes across this video, they can click the link conveniently. So if that's all right with you, Michael.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Pleasure to have you on. Great knowledge. Yeah. Oh, of course. Of course, yeah. Michael. It was a pleasure. And thank you for your time.